Good morning. Welcome to the 2022 State of Harrison Township Address. I appreciate that Greg took care of announcing and thanking our sponsors. I do want to also acknowledge Ron Wilson and Wilson Marine for hosting us. It's a super facility. It's a great location. Of course, thanks to my schoolmate Kelly Levati for in the chamber for organizing the event and putting this all together. I'm very appreciative for that. And also the catering. Mark Miller's Little Camille's by the Bay was responsible for our breakfast, so thank you to them. I think it was a pretty good breakfast. I may have jotted down a few names that maybe some others might have missed. I know we have Carrie Jantz here from Lisa McLean's office, so thank you. I saw Mark Delden and Andrew McKinnon from the county. We also have Eric Edoff, our Lance Cruz superintendent of schools. And maybe it's preemptive, but I'm pretty comfortable in saying I can announce two people who I believe are soon going to be serving us, John James and Alicia St. Germain. Also some folks from the township, and I apologize if I miss someone, please hold your applause, but we've got our fire chief, Dave Bostater. Dave Axtell is in charge of our public services. Nikki Gibbous is our finance director. Debbie Kopp is our assessor. I don't know if I saw Brent here. Brent Condon, he's being very quiet, our building official. My deputy supervisor and also soon to be state rep, Joe Aragona. Angie Troyer is our deputy treasurer, and Rob Huth is our township attorney. So thank you guys. Oh, and also Melissa Goins, our library director. So thank you for that. This was probably my most, and I skipped over Larry. Oh, I'm sorry, Larry and Larry Tominello. Larry Tominello and Adam Witt. Did I miss you guys both? I probably missed a bunch. Oh, and all the, geez, I missed the trustees. I skipped over a whole section. Adam, Larry, Paula Rose, David Brado, and Dean Olgiati, our trustees too. I'm sorry. It may come as a surprise to you, but I am a little bit nervous, and so sometimes it takes a while to get rolling, so forgive me. Had an interesting ride here. This is probably the most interesting ride. With Halloween right around the corner, every bus stop was loaded with goblins and ninjas, and it was kind of surreal, but it's good just the same. Last time I was here was 2014, I think. We hosted the event, and Kelly's mother, a wonderful lady, actually ended up buying a boat here after the event. So I'm still waiting for my commission check on that. It is an honor to serve as the supervisor and represent the great people of Harrison Township.
Do you want to use that?
I can add to it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It is an honor to serve as supervisor and represent the great people of Harrison Township. Unfortunately, it comes with the task of having to give this speech annually. Ooh, I'm getting a feedback there.
You don't really need it, Ken.
I think I'm okay without it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that better? Is that all right?
Yeah.
That's okay, Patrick, or you want me to use my?
For the other one.
All right, I'll shut this one down.
Take that off and use that.
All right,
Right?
there we go. All right, let's try that. Still getting no feedback? Good. Okay. See, I told you I hate doing this. My favorite part of this event is when I finish, not because I mind public speaking, but because I struggle every year to try to make it interesting. Experts at public speaking say that humor helps keep an audience engaged, so just like past years, I will begin with a joke. I have to tell you I had a couple really good ones, but Adam swiped all of them away, so this is all he would let me say. There was a gentleman sentenced to 5 years in prison. The day he checked in, he was assigned to a cell with another prisoner, and before he even had a chance to introduce himself to his cellmate, someone in the cell block yelled out 13 really loud, And everybody in the cell block started laughing and cheering and banging on the bars, and the new guy is just kind of looking around, and everything calms down. He goes over to his cellmate. Someone yells out, 32. Same thing. Everybody's laughing and banging on the bars and just kind of not really understanding. So he finally, everything calms down. He goes to the old guy, and the new guy says, what's the deal with the numbers? And the old guy explains, well, we've all been in here together. We tell the same jokes over and over. So we've got them memorized. And instead of telling the whole joke, we just say the number. The new guy says, that's a great idea. He says, I think I want to try that. What's a good one? Oh, the old guy says, listen, 27, everybody's favorite. So the new guy goes up to the bars and he yells out, 27. Nothing. Total silence. He's almost a little intimidated. He steps back. He looks at the old guy. He says, what's the deal? I thought you said 27 was the best one. The old guy says to him, some guys just don't know how to tell a joke. This is my 12th year as supervisor and my 11th State of Harrison Township address. I'll apologize to some of you because if you've been here in the past, you may have told this story, you may have heard this story, but I think it's worth repeating. I recall writing my first State of the Township address. After 12 years, I'm still nervous. I was definitely nervous then. I'm sitting at the kitchen table trying to come up with the right words to say and working on it, and my oldest daughter had just started at Wayne State University, and she's not too chatty with me, but this particular evening she was telling me all kind of things going on in her life, and I was really excited to hear it, but at the same time I'm really not giving her attention because I'm trying to write my speech. So finally I apologized to her and I said, I'm sorry, I'm just really trying to write the speech and I'm not really paying too much attention. And she says, oh, well, what is the speech for? And I says, well, I have to give the State of Harrison Township address. And she started laughing, and she said, well, what is that, like State of the Playground or State of the Sandbox? Like, this isn't State of the Union, this is State of Harrison Township. But it helps to put things into perspective. How good or bad can this presentation be? The bad news is this may be the worst State of the Township address you've ever heard. But the good news is you've already paid your entry fee, and nobody on Facebook can comment on it and tell me how bad I am. Social media can be both a good and bad thing. I've come to understand that for me personally, making others happy is something that gives me great personal satisfaction. I grow a garden, and I like to give away the vegetables. And I like to make things from the garden and share them with people, whether it's canning or preserving things. When someone tells me that they really enjoyed something that I made, it brings me great happiness. So therefore, being a public servant should be the perfect job for me, doing things for the benefit of others. However, I cannot tell you how much it hurts, and I know many of you in this room know the same thing, how much it hurts when I read social media posts from people I've never met or even talked to, saying completely untrue and hurtful things about me or others at our township. I know it's a small minority, but somehow seeing it in writing makes it feel worse than it really is. I am actually blocked from one of the biggest township Facebook pages, You Know You're From Harrison Township When, which probably in the end is probably good for my mental health. The fact is, we have accomplished some great things in Harrison Township in the past year. We were successful in getting a partial grant and repaving the local roads in the Venice Shore subdivision. We also completed the preliminary engineering for a pedestrian bridge along Jefferson over the spillway. This engineering study was funded mostly from a grant from the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, and we are using this preliminary engineering to apply for further grants to cover the cost of construction for the bridge. I have to thank Amanda Oparka, a resident of our township, as well as a planner with the Macomb County Planning and Economic Development, for her tireless work in applying for grants for Harrison Township. She also serves on our Planning Commission and our DDA board. So, Mark, where are you at there? Get Amanda a raise, so she deserves it. We were also successful in getting grants to help fund the construction of sewers in the center of the township. Last year, as the folks at this table know, We had a public meeting on the subject, and it was very well attended. There are residents who want sewers, and there are definitely those who do not want sewers. Definitely a very polarized crowd. But the fact is, it's not a question of if, but rather when the state will require us to install sewers in the center of the township. It was good 50 years ago, but those septic systems are failing, and it's just not the way to treat the environment. We received a $1 million federal grant for the project, thanks to Representative Lisa McLean. Her office worked to get us that, and we're very thankful. We also were awarded over $8.5 million in low-interest loans from the state with a 10% principal forgiveness grant, which is about $850,000. We are currently working on a plan to use that $1 million grant to construct the regional or major portions of that sewer system, as well as to do the engineering for the system. Our plan is to construct the larger infrastructure so that when we see this division between folks who want the sewers and don't want the sewers, if we've got the main infrastructure in place, we can go street by street, and if a majority of folks on that street want the sewers, we'll move on in pieces. On top of this work, Dave Axtell and our water and sewer department have been very busy. We just completed another, and I'll trip on this, I'll say again, another successful annual lead and copper sample monitoring period. And we did not have any lead or copper exceedances. In fact, we have never had a lead and copper exceedance. I know that that's been in the news with some of our local communities recently, and it's a big concern, but we've done a pretty good job of keeping things safe. We're also replacing our pressure reducing valve and upgrading our digital controls and mechanical fixtures in order to improve the efficiency and operation of our 2-meter pits and our 750,000 gallon water storage tank. When completed, this work will result in reduced wholesale costs for water, which will ultimately lead to lower rates for our residents. We completed the rehabilitation of 2 more of our 18 sanitary pump stations. To date, we have rebuilt or replaced 7 pump stations, with 2 more that have already been approved and are being designed. Harrison Township was awarded a DWAM, or Drinking Water Asset Management Grant. That grant was $328,116. This funding will include the purchase of a handheld GPS unit, as well as the development of a digital model of our water and sewer assets. We have 8,467 water service line shutoff valves, 1,205 fire hydrants, and 1,055 system valves. This will improve response times for water main breaks and reduce labor costs. We are working on an application for a Department of Defense Local Defense Community Grant in order to assist with the cost to rebuild our Prentice Sanitary Lift Station, which services the sanitary flows from Selfridge Air Base. I have to also thank our engineer from Wade Trim, Dave Neumer. He has been the driving force behind many of these projects and grant opportunities. I also have to tell you that our treasurer's office has seen some really significant improvements thanks to the effort of our recently elected, last couple of years, treasurer Larry Tominello. At this time, I'd like to invite Larry to come up and tell us about these improvements. So come on up, Larry. And you can give him a round of applause. Don't forget that. Oh, yeah.
I can. Morning, everyone. How are you? Morning. Is this on? Yes. Okay. So we had actually a lot of improvements that we implemented in the treasurer's office. One of our biggest things that we implemented, worked almost a year on, is we brought our new payment system, so that's payment of taxes, payment of water bills, into the 21st century. So we have a system that we implemented that you can go out and you can pay by check, you can pay by e-check. We're going to be introducing PayPal. There's a variety of payment options, and one of the things we did is it would always cost Harrison Township residents $1 to pay a transaction. So we made that free. We were able to free up some funds to offset those payments. The new system offers paperless billing. Also, you can get SMS text notices on your phone. You can get emails on your in your email or on your phone when your bill is due and when it's paid. We also added QR codes to all our bills. So for those of you who don't know what QR codes are, they're actually, if you look on your table, there's this little marketing slip, and so if you actually take your phone and you can use the blue one for water bills and the pink one for tax bills. You can actually take your phone, punch in that, and go right in and pay your bill. So you don't have to look anything up. It takes you right to that area. So we actually implemented the payment platform right around the beginning of June. So we've been about 5 months. And what I want to do is I want to just give you some stats on some of the things we've been realizing as we move towards our new payment platform. So basically we have, let me get my glasses on here if I can. So we have active billers that have moved on to our new platform, 3,000. SMS customers, that's customers that's using their phones for messages when bills are due or bills are paid, around 400. We also offered a IVR phone payment system, and we have about 150 people using that. And future pays, those are mainly for snowbirds where people can say, oh, my taxes are going to be due next year. I can go ahead and set to pay my taxes on a specific date, and it'll pay. The biggest thing that I'm most proud of is the paperless billing. So with every paperless bill that we actually implement, we save about 85 cents per mailing. So that's between your postage, your envelope, your paper, print and fulfillment. So right now, we have 114 people, now this is in less than 5 months, 114 people signed up for paperless billing, and this is for our water system. Most people get billed every 2 months, some get billed every 3 months. But basically, so far this year, in about 4 3/4 months, we're already saved $660. So I see that growing, so that's really going to be additional revenue for the township. And one thing that I want to point out is, our township is small, so we don't have a marketing department or an IT department or publishing, art, media department. So everything we do was done in my office, and that's why I want to recognize Angie Troyer. If you could stand up, Angie. Angie and I were, thanks. So Angie and I were, we were development, integration, marketing. The card on your table shows you another one of the marketing things that we both came up with. So, this was sort of our office did everything from nuts to bolts in implementing this. So I want to thank Angie and the rest of the staff on implementing that. And I do want to say is we're also right now working on adding the Senior Center, Parks and Recreation, EDC, and the Fire Department onto our automated billing system, so people will be able to pay for different things through that system. So that's our sort of phase 2 that we're implementing. We also implemented an e-lockbox for tax payments. So just to give you a little history there, and Ken, trust me, I won't take more time than you.
No, that's okay.
When people go to their banks and they submit a tax payment, because we did not have an e-lockbox for tax payments, you would go to your bank and you'd either pay it in person or go to their website and pay it. Well, what happens, because we didn't have an e-lockbox, behind the scenes, what happens is the bank sends that pay request to a third party. The third party actually cuts a paper check, and that paper check is mailed to us or mailed to our lockbox. So that sometimes that process could take up to 2 weeks. During COVID, we didn't receive mail at all, so we weren't receiving payments just because of the mail, the issues with mail. Moving to the lockbox, now when you go to your bank and you make a tax payment, it's immediate. So basically the next day we're going to get that payment. So great improvement, not only for us, but for the residents who think they made their payment and may never have gotten us. So that was a great thing. I also want to talk about tax distributions. So all of our tax distributions, and we must make tax distributions to the county on the 1st and the 15th of the month. All of our tax distributions were wires. Wires are a very expensive way to move money. We've migrated everything from wire to ACH. So basically we're saving, the difference between a wire and an ACH is $35 versus 40 cents. So you can see that there's quite a bit of savings moving to ACH. Tax overpayments. This is one thing that we just implemented within the last 2 months. So basically a tax overpayment is something where if you go to your bank, either through a closing, a sale, you have residents that have an escrow account with their bank, and where they pay the tax payments, and residents make a payment as well. So you have different entities in there making payments, and when we make a tax payment, we can't keep it. We must return it. So we typically get over 100, well over 100 duplicate tax payments in a year. So basically we have to look at the tax payment, identify that it's a duplicate. We have to back it out of our cash receipting program. We have to request a check. We have to write a letter. We have to put the check in the envelope and mail it to the either resident or to the mortgage company. Very, very, very labor intensive. And so what we did is we identified a product called Auto Agent. So what Auto Agent does is we send a file of all our tax payments to all the mortgage companies. And what happens is, and this is daily, so every day we send a file, tax payment file to our mortgage, to the Auto Agent. Auto Agent takes that and works with the mortgage companies, and if there's a duplicate, they take care of it over there on the Auto Agent side. We never see it. So we never get these duplicate payments in anymore. There's zero cost to that. So this was a product that had been out there for probably about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, and we just implemented about 2 months ago. So all those duplicate payments are gone, no cost to us, and we're saving a lot of labor as we go forward. And lastly, I want to talk about our new YouTube channel. So the Treasurer's Office in Harrison Township is also responsible for our cable operations, so all of our AV equipment, our cable station programming. Patrick Linneberry is who's filming today, so we try to get these type of things on our cable channel. But one thing that we did is we implemented a new YouTube channels. You know, because technology is moving more towards streaming versus cable. Probably in 5 or 8 years, we may not have our PEG channels on cable any longer. So we implemented a new YouTube channel. It's called Charter Township of Harrison, and we stream all of our board, PC, and ZBA meetings on the YouTube channel. You can actually go out to the channel. You can subscribe to it anytime there's a meeting. It'll give you a notice. It'll say the meeting is about to start, or you can go out there and you can look at historic meetings as well. So a lot of good stuff, more stuff to come, but I appreciate, I want to appreciate my staff, Angie, and our other 2 account bookkeepers, Diane Nelson and Emily Rakowski. You know, I try to make sure that everyone works as a team. Angie and I don't work in a vacuum, so everything we do, we run it towards the girls in the front office. I mean, they're the ones that are doing the day-to-day work, so we just want to make sure it's okay with them, and plus we want them to sort of qualify what we're doing, because you know sometimes we're sort of in our own little world. But anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Ken?
Thank you, Larry. I had maybe not quite begged him, but really, really asked very, very strongly if he would give that presentation, because I know he's doing a ton of stuff in there, and just, I mean, you can see it's You know, that was kind of a little short nerd fest there, but that's the guy you want in the treasurer's office. He's doing a great job, and yeah, well, no, so I guess I mean that in the kindest nerd fest sort of way, you know. But he really is, and that's what you need. You need, different houses within your departments. You need different people, different strengths. So it did get a little dry there, so I didn't have this planned, but I will interject a quick joke if I can remember it. So let's see. What do you call a midget psychic wandering? A small, medium, at large. No, sorry. Some guys just don't know how to tell a joke. One of the things, kind of to change the subject, that probably the number one thing I've been asked most recently is about Geno Surf. People say, well, when is it going to be open? I remember when the current owners bought it, I think in 2016, they said, we'll have it open in the spring of 17. Clearly, they've missed that target. I will say that our building department's doing a great job working with them. It's a pretty big job. They're really doing some great things there. The owners have resumed the work, remodeling the facility. Place is looking a lot better. I don't have an official completion date, but I'd be willing to go on the record here based on the activity and say that I think there's a pretty good chance it'll be open next year. So good news there. It's a cool place. The Macomb County Department of Roads, great partner, county agency, they're planning to replace 3 bridges next year in Harrison Township. One at the end of North River Road, one at the end of South River Road, and one on West Archer. The funding for these bridges is a combination of federal, state, and county funds with no township or resident participation. Bridges are something very important in Harrison Township. Our township is comprised of 14 square miles, again, probably data I've said in the past. 6 square miles is taken up by Selfridge Air Base, so really the net result, we're about 8 square miles as a township. 7 square miles of the township is actually an island, bordered by the spillway going up into Mount Clemens around to the Clinton River. So a majority of our residents live on an island, and in fact, you're on that island right now. In order to get here, you had to take a bridge to get to Harrison Township. So bridges are definitely very, very important to us. Our Board of Trustees recently approved major repairs to our bike path system. We kind of shout out to Candace. When she was in this chair, she took on the role of beginning the bike path. And I'm sure if any of you have ever had a chance to have a conversation, she's told you how when we talk about, that was pre-social media, but it didn't stop people from kicking her teeth in, saying what a bad idea it was. And now it's really a gem in our community. So we're fixing up the bike paths that you began, but we want to thank Candace Miller for getting that started a few years back. So thank you, Candace. The repairs, the bid we had for the repairs exceeded $750,000. We have made some adjustments to lower that cost, but it's a pretty significant project. The work has begun, and we used a portion of our federal ARPA funds to help to pay for that work. So we're appreciative to get that going, and thank you to the board for approving that. If you've watched television recently, I'm sure you've seen the political ads. It seems like if you watch the news, there's about 10 minutes of news and 20 minutes worth of commercials. I'm also sure you've received the mailers for and against everybody and everything. There are some big state and federal elections this year, but oftentimes voters don't realize how much local races matter to your quality of life. Look at how different one community can be from another. So when we think of the Metro Detroit area, identify what you might consider that average home, maybe a brick ranch. You could buy that home in one community, but if you buy that identical home in another community, it could cost twice as much, even though it's the same home in relatively the same condition. How can that be? How can one home be worth twice as much when it's 5 or 10 miles away from another home that's identical? What makes our communities so different? There are many factors, but one big difference is services. We pay for services in many different ways. For example, some services we vote on. Some services are defined by a millage. Some services are not subject to a vote or a millage, such as water and sewer. Could you imagine a vote for water and sewer services? As a provider of water and sewer services, I can't imagine having a millage for water and sewer fail. What would we do? How do you, I mean, this is just an essential service. You have to have it. Schools would be another example where the majority of funding for schools is not subject to a vote. But some of the best run schools and some of the most successful schools do have a separate voter-approved millage to pay for things like bonding and facilities improvements. Good schools are closely related to good communities and higher property values. So it stands to reason that if I've got one school district here and maybe the folks aren't willing to vote to have a few extra dollars go toward that district, and I've got another district over here that's at approved millage to maybe pay for facilities improvements, a little bit more money for the services, but your property values really reflect that because good schools lead to good communities. There's a clear correlation. In order to have good communities, we must have good services. In order to have good services, we must fund them. Our Harrison Township Public Library has a millage on this November's ballot. I'm proud to say that I will personally be voting for this millage. I encourage others to do the same. I am hopeful that it will pass. Our library does an amazing job of providing a wide range of programs and services, and this millage will assure that will continue and it will even improve. Since the beginning of this year, our library has checked out over 71,000 electronic materials, over 31,000 physical materials, including Wi-Fi hotspots for mobile internet services. There have been 31,000 uses of library databases, including Ancestry.com, Consumer Reports, and early literacy databases like Scholastic BookFlix, which is our most popular database. We have seen 1,571 uses of our public computers and another 1,522 uses of the free Wi-Fi provided in our library. The library has issued 64 free or discounted passes to partner destinations through the Michigan Activity Pass program, including day passes to local destinations like our very own Lake St. Clair Metro Park. In the first 9 months of this year, the library has hosted 43 different children's programs for 1,069 attendees. We talk about social media from time to time, and I'm guilty asking that question at some point in my past as well. What do I need a library for? I've got a phone right here. I've got access to all the information that I might possibly need. But I'm giving you statistics of hundreds of thousands of examples in the first 9 months of this year where our library provided various services to families that clearly didn't involve using their phone. I feel very similar about the smart millage. Regardless of your zip code, we live in the Motor City. We love cars. And the love of that cars has led to an above average amount of suburban sprawl and probably a reduced emphasis on mass transit when we compare Metro Detroit to other metropolitan areas because we love our cars. You know, I want to get around by myself. But the reality is, SMART does provide an essential service, and I'm also happy to say and proud to say I will be voting for the renewal of that millage. I recently saw an old clip of Frank Sinatra with Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. That's kind of one of my favorite. I love Johnny Carson. I think he was a great guy. Frank Sinatra, this is back from probably the 70s. He told the story of how one evening he was dining at a restaurant when Don Rickles came into the restaurant. Don, first thing he did, went right over to Frank Sinatra's table, kind of whispered into him. He says, "Hey, Frank, is there any way that you could, when you're done eating, could you come over to my table and just say hi? I got a date, and I want to impress her." And Frank said, "Sure, I'll do that." So Frank agreed. He finished up his meal. He ordered a cappuccino, and then he walked over to Don's table when he was done, and he says, "Hello, Don, how you doing?" Well, Don is there with his date eating. Don Rickles throws his napkin down. He says, "Come on, Don, can't you see I'm eating? Frank, can't you see I'm eating? I mean, come on." But, kind of got him by surprise. I'm not sure how Frank Sinatra felt at that moment, but I think I know. Sometimes you think you know what the rules are, and all of a sudden they change. That's what our state legislature has done, and our governor approved with Public Act 206 of 2022. They took away local control over zoning of group foster homes for children. With the passing of this act, a group home for up to 10 children can be located in any residential area without any local oversight or approval. These are facilities that require 24-hour staffing with medical care. There's no question. Everyone can understand that there's a need for these facilities. That's not the issue here. But locals are best qualified to determine where these facilities should be located. Now, I'm certainly not saying that we should be able to say they can't go anywhere. But with this act, anyone can buy the home right next door to yours and convert it into a 10-person facility, plus support staff, 24 hours, coming and going, parking. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not realistic. This lack of respect for local control is frankly lately too common in Lansing. They're working on other bills, including one that will prevent locals from regulating short-term rentals, such as Airbnbs. Again, same issue. This is definitely a major concern for our community. Imagine working hard, saving up, finally buying your dream home on Lake St. Clair, only to find that within the next few days, somebody buys the house next to you and decides to convert it into a rental. Now, your next door neighbor is not a neighbor, in fact, but a rental property with different people every weekend. Who knows? We've had this happen a few times with poor results. How would you like having a bachelor party every weekend, all summer long, right next to your very own home? Communities have worked to develop regulations, ordinances to deal with this, but the folks in Lansing who still have not fixed the local road or the road funding problem are instead wasting their time on legislation telling locals how to run their communities. I think it's a massive mistake. Every community is unique. Every community should be allowed to make the decisions locally. There are communities in Michigan based on festivals and rotating issues where they might embrace the idea of an Airbnb ordinance. That's fine. Let this community choose their rules, let another community choose theirs. Another bill they're working on would assign a $500 fine anytime someone in the township or in your community makes a mistake on a Freedom of Information or FOIA request. Regardless of what the error is, if you check the wrong box, you owe the person who applied for that FOIA a $500 check. It's just ridiculous. We need representatives in Lansing who respect local control. I'm also very proud to say that I am supporting Alicia St. Germain as for our next state rep for our district here in Harrison Township. She's a resident. I know she will win. I know she'll do a great job in Lansing. Thank you, Alicia, for stepping up to run and for working hard to win. I am a strong believer in networking. Every month I meet with other supervisors in Macomb County. I also meet with Oakland County supervisors. They have a recurring meeting. And I recently had the opportunity to attend a Michigan Townships Association convention. It's interesting because as you sit down, clerks all sit together, treasurers sit together, supervisors sit together, and what kind of conversation comes up, but how each of my peers work or don't work with their treasurer and clerk. I can say I love to brag about the relationship the three of us share. When people talk about election concerns, I can confidently say that I know our elections are well run in Harrison Township. When issues come up and people hit me with questions, I go to Adam, our clerk. He's always got the answer. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Witt to come up and tell us about the good things happening in our clerk's office.
Thank you for the kind words, Ken. And Larry obviously didn't get the message that we're doing casual here in Harrison Township. We're by the water. We don't like putting suits on. That's the nerd part. Yeah, it is the nerd part, but that's okay. Treasurer. He's got all the money. It's fine, yeah. So the clerk does a lot of things in townships. One of those is overseeing our accounting department and our accounting functions. So I want to thank that firm for that office for doing that with Nikki Gibbs leading that effort. Accounting's not my background. They do a marvelous job, and I don't have to worry about that. Every year, we get a clean or unmodified opinion on our audit back. We're constantly doing upgrades, working with the treasurer's office. We've been able to streamline a lot of different processes over the last year that have made everything better. We're implementing new technology in there. We just are going to be starting doing digital accounts payable processing, so those approvals, we're not transferring 30 slips of paper all over the township all the time, trying to track people's signatures down. They're just gonna get an email, be able to approve it and move on, so that's great. We also just went out and did a bid for our audit services, so we're starting with a new audit firm. We moved on from our past relationship. We're starting with Raymond Group, so we're really excited that I think it's important that a community reevaluates, especially with their auditors. It's having a different set of eyes look at your finances, that outside group look at it. So we're really taking a good step forward there. Again, stressing technology. Last year we started implementing electric document management. So we're trying, one of the clerk's jobs is to keep track of everything forever, because townships are never gonna go away. We recently scanned, I don't know, several thousand building plans, which were 10, 20, 30 pages each. And these are documents that we have to keep for eternity. So those are now scanned, those are now digitally available. If there's a fire, if there's a flood, we have them no matter what. My deputy, Terry Salgett, has been spearheading that in our office. Anytime she has a spare minute, her scanner's going. She's pulling in other documents that we have to keep forever. So embracing that technology is really gonna help us down the road. Another thing that's really big for us this year and in years past is our marijuana licensing. So Harrison Township was one of the first communities in Macomb County and one of the first in the state. I think there's only just over 100 communities that have approved marijuana businesses. We're one of them. We're also one of them that has never been sued by a marijuana company. We've never had a problem with our licensing. And that's in part to the great work that we have. Our fire department, our building department, they're the ones going out and doing those inspections. We're keeping all those corporations in line. And they're great corporate citizens for the most part. They're involved heavily in our EDC. They support community events. So they're a unique part of Harrison Township. They've also driven up our property values in our industrial corridor to make it a more attractive place to have a business, to want to be near those. So it's really helped out across the board. I had to write notes on my phone because I didn't have any paper. My kids took it all and wrote like pictures on it, so I didn't have anything. Right now we're sort of unique to Harrison Township, but I also get to oversee our community development block grant project, so I get to do a little bit of construction stuff. Right now we are just starting work on the last phase of a sidewalk project along Union Lake to help connect a bunch of multifamily unit properties there to our bike path system. So before they had a 40-mile-an-hour road that they were walking down. Now they have a safe sidewalk to be able to connect to the path. We're also about to start work on a new water main and sidewalk project on the north end of our township. It connects one of our large groups of trailer parks to Joy Boulevard, so they have a safe way to be able to walk up there, as well as ensuring that they have a good quality drinking water, and they replace that water main. So again, that's working in partnership with our water and sewer department to find projects that really benefit the community. The big thing, everyone thinks clerks only do elections, but I haven't even gotten to elections yet, and I've already filled up most of my day. But we are, preparing for the election. That's why my deputy had to walk in late, because somebody had to be at the counter to make sure that we could issue absentee ballots as people walked in. So we've seen absentee voting continue to grow. Not to the presidential election cycle, that was probably an all-time high, but we are higher than we've ever been in any other election except for that one this year already. We expect high turnout. We're prepared. But it's not because of me, it's because of your neighbors and friends that are the workers that show up and work in those precincts. So when you go and vote, be kind to them. They're there. By the time that day's done, they've been there for probably 15, 16 hours. They're working really hard to make sure your vote counts, and I can assure you, here in Harrison Township and throughout Macomb County, your vote counts the way you mark it. We do a fantastic job running elections here. I'm proud of the fact that when I send my stuff off to Clerk Forlini and he hands it over to their board of canvassers, we get great feedback from them. We usually have clean canvassing, so that's really great. I'm also, I sort of feel like I'm bragging a little bit, but I am a little. I currently serve as the president of the State Clerks Association, and it's brought a lot of unique challenges in addition to my normal job. But I got to be on TV the other day, and like nobody cares about the clerk when the supervisor's down the hall and they can talk to them. But this time they want to talk to me. So I got to do an interview on Channel 4, and I know they're doing another one. I think that's going to run soon. But if you ever have a question about elections or any concerns about that kind of stuff, make sure you reach out to your local clerk. They're the person that is your trusted resource for elections. And Ken mentioned, you know, we have this fantastic working relationship in our office. Our board is fantastic. Anytime we have a, you know, like, oh man, this would be better if it was this, you're like, this is a low-term problem. We don't have board fighting. We don't have that. It's a fantastic place to work, and it's a great community that we're working on behalf of all our residents. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Adam. I echo those comments about the working relationship. I mentioned I have a chance to network, and oftentimes the beginning of those conversations with some of my peers is sharing some of the problems they have, some of the obstacles, and I'm fortunate to say that we work with a great group of folks, and we're just not caught up with that. So thank you for your service. Our fire department continues to provide excellent service. Some fire departments in our area have struggled to maintain staffing levels, but Chief Bostater and our firefighters have created and maintained the kind of positive work environment that attracts good talent. To date this year, we have had 163 fire calls, 2,017 EMS calls, 449 various or other calls, and 784 fire prevention activities. That's something I cannot emphasize or overstate. Chief Bostater, one of the things he really wanted to do when he came on board was to improve that prevention part of the services. Larry Shackett is our fire marshal. He was supposed to be here, but in true fashion, based on the quality of work that he does, he got called out for something that needed to be addressed today, and obviously that's a priority. Larry is doing an outstanding job. Of all these actions, of all these calls and activities, the best action we can take is the kind that prevents the fire in the first place. I would love to stand up here next year and say we had no fire calls. Well, we know that's impossible. That's just not going to happen. However, I am also certain that there are calls that never happened in Harrison Township in this past year because of Larry's efforts. And not just Larry, lots of other folks in the fire department, but because of those fire prevention efforts, yep. And I know Paula doesn't want me to recognize her efforts as well, but that's why I realize it's a team. But the point is that one of the areas where we've made some great improvements in our fire department is fire prevention, and I'm certain that it's resulted in some fire calls that never happened. We will soon be taking delivery of 2 new Lifeline ambulances. Chief likes to call them squads. I didn't know what a squad was until he told me, so I know what an ambulance is. And our firefighters just hosted their first open house last Saturday that we've had in a few years, and very well attended, and we're very appreciative. It really is it's a team effort, so I'm very appreciative for the activities in our fire department. Our assessor, Debbie Kopp, does a great job, her and her team. Actually, Debbie is with a firm, AAS, and we contract our assessing out. We're one of several communities that have moved in that direction. I say this cautiously because I don't want to send the wrong message, but I'm pretty comfortable in saying that there are times that our firefighters go on a run and provide life-saving service, only to find that next week, Mrs. Smith comes in with a plate of cookies saying, "Thank you for taking care of my husband." I just don't see anybody ever showing up at the assessing department with a plate of cookies saying, "Thanks for assessing my home." It's really one of those background things. Even Dave's crew, when there's a water main break on Christmas Eve, folks will come out and say, "Man, you're out here in the cold. You're giving up your time with your family so I can have water. Here, I made this for you. I brought this for you." But it just doesn't seem like assessing generates that same passion. But it's a key part of the services we provide. Some statistics from last year to this year, our residential property values have seen an average growth of 3.9%. Our industrial properties have seen a growth of 17.4%, and our commercial properties have seen a growth in value of 11.2%. It's a composite of just under 6% in property value growth. So I don't know that the assessor is responsible for that, but the assessor is certainly responsible for tracking that, and we appreciate the work that you and your staff do. I could go on about every department. There's folks in prior years I've emphasized, there's folks sometimes that don't make the cut into each speech because it just gets too darn long. We're fortunate to have great staff at every level. Our Parks and Rec Committee is expanding their programming. Our beautification, can't say enough about that committee. Beautification Commission does great work. However, everything is not perfect in Harrison Township. I did not include a report on the rates of return for our pension funds, maybe our rate of loss in our pension funds. I think we're all feeling the pain in our investments. It is cyclical, and I'm sure it'll return, but that might be an area where we're not so excited. What else is on the horizon? Is anyone here superstitious? I'm not, but that's typical for a Taurus, so. We continue to advocate, I didn't know if that one would hit or not. We continue to advocate for improved water quality. I understand that separating stormwater and sanitary sewer systems is an expensive and daunting task. However, we must continue to draw attention to the need for Oakland County to end combined sewer overflows. It needs to be understood. It's permitted. They're not doing something illegal. The state gives them a permit, but we must talk about the fact that there needs to be an eventual end to combined sewer overflows. It might be incremental steps, but we need to continue to advocate for the separation of sanitary and storm sewers, or some solution that stops combined sewer overflows. We're also drawing attention to the increase of Lingbaya on our shores. Many of you may not even be aware of Lingbaya. Recently, it's gotten a little bit of media attention. Lingbaya is a non-native algae that is washing on shore, creating mats of decaying material. It's filling in coves. It's actually creating land. So as time goes on and the Lingbaya washes on shore and builds up, you can actually walk on it. And you can look along the shoreline of our lake and see areas where it's completely filled in open areas. It's currently isolated to a few areas, but this problem is growing, and we need to find a solution before, frankly, it destroys the lake. Right across the street, our DNR is completely rebuilding their boat launch. They call it the Spillway or Cutoff Canal boat launch, because the algae filled up their launch area every spring. So we're already spending millions of dollars on this problem, and it's not going to go away on its own. The Army Corps of Engineers has agreed to dedicate some resources to researching the problem, and I am grateful for that, and I am hopeful that it will lead to further research and ultimately a solution. Speaking of the Army, there was a patriotic young man during World War II who decided to join the Army. When he got to the front lines, he went to his sergeant, and the sergeant said, "Listen, son, unfortunately, we just don't have any more weapons. So if you go out in the field and you're on the front lines, just hold up your hands like this and yell bangity bangity and pretend like you have a gun." And the man said, "Sergeant, that's insane. I'm going to die." He says, "Listen, that's your orders. That's all we got. I don't have a gun for you." So, regardless of what he thinks, he goes out to the front lines. Next day, a German soldier comes toward him, bangity bangity. Instantly, the German soldier drops dead. He can't believe it. How would this work? Sure enough, next day, encounters another enemy soldier, bangity bangity. Again, unbelievable. Following day, German soldier approaches him. The young man says, bangity bangity. German soldier just keeps walking right at him. Bangity bangity, nothing. Bangity bangity. Finally, the German soldier just keeps walking toward him, bumps him with his chest, knocks him over, and says, tankety tankety, tankety tankety. I had a really much better one, but Adam wouldn't let me tell it. In summary, I am happy to report that the state of Harrison Township is excellent. I guess I could have just said that in the beginning and been done a while ago, but thanks for listening anyways.
Thanks, Supervisor Verkest. You've got a great personal style. I think I've heard all your addresses. You nail it every time in your own way, so thanks again. We always like to leave a little time for an update from the county, so please welcome Mark Hackle, County Executive. Doing the Hackle Walk right now.
Absolutely no jokes. I will promise you that, and I will keep it short. Actually, Ken kind of stole our thunder a little bit with the boathouse out here at the Marine Division. Obviously, my background in law enforcement, I've been at Marine Division since 1980, but it was well past its due date. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners, Barb, I think she's here still, as well as Don, for their support on funding that. It is a much-needed asset. We have the largest marine safety program than any other county in the entire state. And when it comes to protecting that lake from a physical perspective, there is no question about it. The Marine Division here in Macomb County is top-notch. And so it's scheduled to be done by next year. And as was mentioned, as soon as that's done, they'll be working on that South River Bridge over there as well. We're extremely excited about that project too. So a lot happening in Macomb County. We're going through the budget cycle right now, and not to bore you with details, but I think one of the priorities I have had and will continue to have is dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues. And we think we have a plan to at least deal with those folks that come in contact with law enforcement with the construction of a facility that doesn't just add space for prisoners, but helps deal with the assessment of people that come in contact with law enforcement to make sure that those that need to be confined have the right type of confinement facilities, and those that don't need to be confined because treatment is a better alternative and they're not a danger to themselves or society, they will get placed someplace where they're going to get that type of treatment. So that'll be the focus of where we're headed. That's something I know we've got some great support on from the Board of Commissioners, and we're going to continue to make sure that we do take care of those here in Macomb County that have those type of issues or concerns that we're seeing. So that is all. I think it's about time many of us get out here, so I am not about to add the nerd factor and or to continue telling jokes. So thank you very much, and Ken, great job with what you're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. One more quick update from Candace Miller, Public Works Commissioner.
Here, let me just have that here.
Okay, she's not going to mount the bridge here.
2 minutes. First of all, I'm delighted to be here this morning, not just because I'm the Public Works Commissioner, but some of you might not know, my family was actually in the marina business. So I sold boats for a living way before I ever got involved in politics. So I love this, and hopefully somebody buys a boat here today. It's very important. But, you know, our department, we say that our mission really is quality of life, and that means water quality. So everything we do is about water quality. I have about almost $150 million worth of projects that are going on right now. I have a couple of big projects, huge projects going on to fix our big interceptor where all your sewage goes through so that we don't have any more sinkholes. But one of the things that we are incredibly focused on, and really the reason that I ran for this particular job, quite frankly, was to address the issue, and Ken mentioned it, about combined sewer overflows, CSOs. My God, it's 1920, or excuse me, 1920, yeah, that's how old I am. 2022, right? And what's happening? We're still putting sewage out into Lake St. Clair. How crazy is this? We don't have to live this way. We absolutely do not have to live this way. And you're talking about Oakland County. I just want to say Barb Zinner and Don Brown just passed a resolution the other day calling on Oakland County to try to do something about their combined sewer overflows. And the response yesterday from my counterpart in Oakland County was, appreciate your passion, but we don't have anything to do with CSOs. It has nothing to do with what's going on in Lake St. Clair with the Limbaya issue or all these other kinds of things. That is not the only issue. There's a lot of other contaminants that get into our lakes, whether it's faulty septic tanks, phosphorus, nitrogen that's happening from our lawns, et cetera. But combined sewer overflows absolutely have a role to play in that. I have got millions of dollars of projects going on in our Chapaton retention basin, which is at 9 Mile and Jefferson. We've already reduced the CSOs there in just the last 3 years by somewhere in the 30 percentile, which is the first time it's happened in decades. We have another project as we speak, what we call an in-system storage. I won't talk about all the details, obviously, but we think that's going to reduce it by maybe another 20%. Then we have another project that's online, about a $30 million project down there. Hopefully, we'll get somewhere in the 80 percentile of reducing our combined sewer overflows here in Macomb County, because we don't have clean hands. Easy to point at Oakland County, but we've been doing it for decades. But what we do have, the difference here, we have a different culture. And what the culture is here is we are absolutely focused. We have the political will amongst everyone, right? And the residents are pushing all the politicians. We all have the will to clean up our lake. Because guess what? There aren't any kids here today, but when Eric goes back to school today, those kids there, that's why we have to do it, okay? We have to do it for the next generation. And anyway, we've got a lot of things going on in our department, but I'm delighted to be here as a former township supervisor. I feel right at home here, so thanks very much. Good job, Ken.
Thank you, Candace. Before we let you go, we want to thank the Chamber staff for working behind the scenes and making everything run so smoothly. Please go to the Chamber website and check out the upcoming events that you would like to attend. And thank you for your attention. Have a great weekend. Go blue, go green. Drive safely.